Now we're at number 4 of the top weather events across western and central Wyoming for 2024. And we have above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation pretty much all through the year. Or in layman's terms, it was really, really warm as a rule and really, really dry. Main reason for this, at least during the winter months, the first part of spring, was the El Nino weather pattern. Now, all El Nino is a warm area of water down here across the equator, and it tends to oscillate back and forth. And during El Nino years, it tends to pool up here against the South American coast of Peru and Ecuador, and the water can sometimes be 10 to 15 degrees above what it usually is this time of year. That puts a lot of energy up here into the subtropical jet stream. That's this jet stream right here. You get a lot of atmospheric rivers, a lot of moisture coming in off the Pacific. And that's why a lot of times California can get some really bad storms during this time frame. It also tends to bring a lot of severe weather to southern portions of the U.S. Now across Wyoming and further north, the other thing it does, it tends to force the polar jet stream a little bit further to the north. It tends to block a lot of the cold air coming down from Canada and out of the Arctic. So anywhere from Alaska over here toward the Great Lakes states, and even into New England last year as well. It was very, very warm anywhere on the East Coast here. That's why it was so warm. And also with the storm tracks away from the area, it was very dry across much of the area, especially east of the Continental Divide. Now take a look at the average temperatures here. Pick out your closest spot here. Sorry I couldn't get them all on here. This chart would be about 10 pages long if I had every town on here. For our major climatological points here, you can see here's the what was this year. Can't talk this morning. This is what it was this year. That's a little better. And the normal temperature is right here. And anywhere from about 2.5 to about 3.5 degrees warmer than normal across these areas. Now, it doesn't seem like much. But you look at these compared to the normal as far as the ranks. Really notable one is the one here at Lander. Wasn't a lot of snow there this year, a lot of bare ground at times. It was the 4th warmest year of all time, at least up through December 20th when I'm filming this. Records here go back 133 years, so that's really notable. Rock Springs, 3rd warmest of all time. Records there go back about 76 years. Just about all these places though were in the top 10, so notable there. We look at how much rain and snow fell, precipitation. Now one thing you want to notice here, notice how the percentage out west, 86% at Lake Yellowstone, we had more of a zonal flow last year. That basically means storms move west to east. So those of you who say places say like Jackson, Afton, you still got some of those Pacific storms in there that gave you a decent amount of snow. So it wasn't that notable there. The East Divide, because a lot of the storms came from west to east and not coming up from the south, we didn't get a lot of big storms. I think we had one last winter. And that was during 2023 around Thanksgiving. See, 86% there. Everybody else, anywhere from about 55% to about 75%. So we're in a drought right now. We really need the moisture, and next week it really doesn't look like it's going to happen. See, ranks anywhere from about 5th down to about the 13th driest. And now one more thing we'll look at. This is how much snow fell through the calendar year. Start with Lander. That tends to be our snowiest spot, about 90 inches a year. That's the brown line here. Now the heaviest snow, that was back in 1973. You can see almost 200 inches there. We had an employee here that would love that. And the lowest, back in 2012, right there you can see only about 45, 50 inches. We're not far away from that this year. That's the green line there. I don't think we'll quite beat that, but it's going to be very, very close. Now we take a look at Casper. Highest was about 115 inches. That was back in 1975. Lowest, that was in 1943 right here. About 35 inches, and during the calendar year so far, really not all that much. Now we did lose our observer there, so this might be a little bit higher, but even with a few more inches there, looks like we're pretty close to the lowest amount there as well. And finally, Riverton, our humble weather abode up here. Sorry for that there, I couldn't get that out. Highest amount, that was back in 2017 through the calendar year, about 70 inches there. Lowest, at least up to date, 2014, about 32 inches. Now this year, looks like we're shattering that record. Again, we didn't have much snow last winter. So far this winter, other than one little event, it's been very, very dry here. Only about 21 inches there. It looks like we have a good chance to break that record there. And that leads into the number 3 weather event across the area. That's the latest 90-degree high temperatures we had across portions of the area, especially those of us to the east of the Continental Divide. Now, this meteorological setup for this, start by taking a look at the surface. A couple of features that stand out here. Number one, you can see a cold front coming in from the west. And also here we have a trough coming in, a little shortwave trough over the area. Now these are important for a couple of reasons. Number one, these tend to mix the atmosphere out because it makes things a little more unstable. Now we didn't have a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, so no showers or thunderstorms. But it did mix some of the stronger winds down to the surface. Now I'll show you that in just a minute as well as we take a look a little higher up, about 3.5 miles up in the atmosphere. Now the reason why it was so warm across the area for that extended period of time was You can see this bulge in these are height lines right here. Don't worry about what they mean. And you notice the bulge up in here basically extends from Mexico all the way up here toward the Great Lakes states, toward southern Canada through New England up here up toward the maritime provinces. This is what's called a ridge. We tend to get warm temperatures under this, and it was very, very warm under this. This is abnormally strong for this time of year. We had to get this kind of ridge across the area in July. Get temperatures of 100, 110 down here, and it just becomes unbearable. But luckily not that hot because it's the end of September. And the other thing is, let's talk about those winds mixing down. Those are these lines right here. Now I'll show you how to read these things. You see you have small lines and big lines. Small lines are about 5 knots, about 5 miles per hour. 10 knots, that's about 11 or 12 miles per hour. The actual ratio is 1.15 miles per hour for every knot. Now you see like a flag, kind of a pennant triangle shape right there. That means it's 50 knots. And you see up here, you just add these together. So you have 50, 60, 65 knots. Multiply that by 1.15. That's about 75 miles per hour. Now again, 3.5 miles up in the atmosphere, that didn't mix down. But these are coming in with a cold front. With that short wave over the area destabilizing the atmosphere, you get a little bit stronger winds to mix down. And it was a rather breezy afternoon across much of the area. And because it was a southwest flow, you can see these are coming from southwest to northeast. It tends to downslope off the mountains. Now, when you go hiking, you probably notice if you're on the side where the wind goes up the mountain, you tend to get clouds, maybe showers. The other side, the leeward side, it tends to dry out and also tends to warm up quite a bit too as well. That's how we get our warmer temperatures around here. Now, how warm? See all these places getting into the 90s. Really notable one, Riverton, we broke our latest 90-degree high by about 10 days. That was back on the 19th of September. Also Lander, the 26th. That record goes back all the way to 133, goes back to 1891. Rather notable there. Even places like Grayville and Moreland that didn't break the latest there, just a couple of days away from that. So a very, very notable warm stretch we had there before we finally cooled off a little bit in the beginning of October. Number 2 and number 1 will be tomorrow. It is directly related to the hot, dry weather. Can you guess what they are? You just have to wait.